and welcome to Monday Musing 22, where I'll be musing over the question, should you make a New Year's resolution for your hobby or not? So, I'm back. I've been on holiday for a few days, so this feels a bit weird. It seems like so long since I last did a Monday Musing, and I think officially it's probably 2 weeks, but it just feels like so long ago. And I think the last live show we did was probably the Christmas special, and that was a millennium ago. There's enough time to create Primaris Marines in the space between our last live show. Oh, wait a minute though, Sam did a live show, of course, but I just mean the last one I was in. So format as usual. I'm going to catch up on the chat, answer a bunch of questions, ask a bunch of questions, hopefully get some answers from the community out there as well. And we'll see where we go from there. Like I say, I feel completely out of it. I just feel like it's so long since I was online. And I know that's not the case. But it's so funny, isn't it? You miss a few days and that's it. You're so long out of the hobby. I want to talk a little bit about my hobby resolutions and whether I should or shouldn't stick to them as well. I had one last year, so we'll start with that. But before we do that, let's catch up on the chat. And I'm hoping that somebody out there can tell me if everything's all right. Right, okay then. At Wargamer Online, never leave us again. Oh, please stick with at Wargamer Online, although that's not going to help, is it? Because you're not highlighting to me. I might have to sort out the chat in a second, but we'll talk about that in a bit, because at Wargamer Online isn't going to show up too much at the moment. I need at Phil Morse, but that's cast like a fool. I've logged into the wrong account when I was setting up the chat, so that's my fault. So here we go. Let's have a catch up on the chat. Somebody let me know that everything's okay. And we'll see. I'm already laughing at some of the chat later on, but let's catch up with the start. I wasn't quite sure how many people were going to show up to this chat, because it's like the start of the year, and if you're like me, you're still feeling a little bit rusty, and Christmas was just one of those crazy periods. So I've only just hit the hobby desk this evening, so that's my first time. But the good news is, while I was off over Christmas, I got a huge amount of reading in. So I'm really, I think, up to speed on lore of some of the armies that I want to do over next year. I've caught up on some of the rules as well, so I've spent more time going through the codex and getting to grips with that. And I have to say, my experience with Patrick in the games that I had with Patrick and witnessed with Patrick have been really useful for me to realise I need to step up my gaming. So I've been working really hard on learning my rules and putting a bit more effort into understanding my armies better. So let's catch up on the chat anyway. Marty Milligan was in nice and early, and Marty Milligan, rather, should I say, and helping me set up, along with Horny Morny as well, who was coming back to me with my Pink Floyd lyrics. Coleman joined us nice and early and said, the bearded Monday fairy is here again to make the beginning of the week a bit more bearable, or beardable as it should be. Yes, well, I'm glad. Monday was a weird choice for video, and it was driven by my day job, really, as Monday night's been the most likely night that I've not brought any work home with me. So that's why it started. I have to say, though, whilst it was a weird choice, I'm glad I made that choice. I think it is good to recognise that a lot can be achieved over a week. So let's start with Mondays and push on. Coleman was in there asking me how the skiing was. Did I go to the Alps? Yes, I went to the Alps. Did I do much skiing? Yes, I did. And this is to answer all the back questions that everyone answering. I had an operation just before Christmas. I was still in a great deal of pain during the Christmas special. I don't know whether that was before or after the operation. I think it was after the operation. I was still in a great deal of pain at that point. Suddenly, on Christmas Day, believe it or not, as if Santa had left me the greatest gift of all, I woke up on Christmas Day, and it was as if I didn't have a back problem. I kind of knew it was there, but I was fully mobile. So the neurosurgeon had promised me by Christmas Day I'd be good. And on Christmas Day I was. And the day after Boxing Day, the 27th, I set off for the French Alps. And it was a great journey, actually. We stopped on the south coast of the UK on the first night, of the 27th. On the 28th, we drove across France, which is about a 650 mile journey, something like that, to take me to Annecy. On the 29th, we met with Ralph, which was an absolute pleasure. He's even more amazing in person than he is online. So that was great to meet with Ralph. And I think we managed to get a couple of hours together. I think so. I was feeling quite tired at the end, and my back was hurting a bit. And I think that was probably for the drive before. But we spent some time together and we had a good old chat, and Ralph recommended some great places to eat that evening. And once Ralph had headed off, I headed back to the hotel, met up with the crowd I was with, and we all went and ate at this wonderful restaurant that Ralph had secured a table for us for. And it was amazing, Ralph. So thank you very much for that. And thank you for your hospitality and meeting me in Annecy as well. What a beautiful city. City or town? I'm going to guess town. Anyway, so yes, and I did get a bit of skiing in and my back survived. And fortunately / unfortunately, depending on your point of view, in 24 hours we had 2 meters of snow. Everybody was locked into their rooms because of avalanche risk. And I say fortunately, unfortunately I couldn't ski much, which was probably a good thing. My back was kind of like, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Fortunately, I had all my digital battle tomes and codexes with me, so I really used the time to brush up on a bit of reading, so it was great fun. So there you go. Anyway, let's move on and catch up with the chat. Daryl is in there, and he's having trouble. No, he's not having trouble, sorry. That's Marty who wants his aggressor's ammo feeds replacing, so I hope you get that sorted, Marty. Like I say, Daryl was in there saying hello. Ralph has joined us, so I know you're listening out there, Ralph, and thank you very much again for your hospitality. It was brilliant. My wife said, she came back and she was like, he's such a nice man. So there you go, you've impressed my wife, who's non-hobby related, so you did very well to keep the chat both hobby and non-hobby as well, to keep my wife entertained. Surreal is in the chat. He's woke up at some point before 3 p.m. and he's joined us. That must be 3 p.m. his time, of course, which is brilliant. So thank you for joining us, Surreal. Billy Lynch has joined us. Jim Wilson as well. Oh, Jim, I missed you. Sorry about that, because you were saying hello before we went live. So hi, Jim. How you doing? And who else have we got in there? I think we're just catching up now. I think Roa's in there. Roa's in there, and as well, Roa, Ralph, and Martin Dix as well. I think all gave donations during one of Sam's shows. So thank you very much for that. That's greatly appreciated and really helps us out. Daryl was asking me about my BT. No, I'm still on 4G, although BT had promised that I would have fiber optic broadband by the end of 2017. As you can see, I strongly suspect, although I can't guarantee it, we're in 2018. And BT have failed. They failed me. No doubt they will blame the inclement weather we had just before Christmas. Ralph has been experiencing a bit of a rules lawyer during a game he was chatting about there, and I can't believe there was a rules lawyer in Skirmish, because there are so few rules, and it's such a great game, and you're going to see much more of Skirmish as we go on, but we'll chat about that later. Who else have we got in? Billy Lynch. I think I've mentioned. Scott Beale has joined us, asking about my progress on my Gene Stealer cult. Well, we'll talk about that. It's very, very close to completion. I've started messing around with weathering liquids, AK Interactive's weathering kit. And so the vehicles are progressing, which is good news. I've been filming that as well, because it's a bit of an experiment. I'm using a slightly different technique to what Sam uses, so I think it's worth doing. Mark Potter has joined us. Hey Mark, how you doing, mate? We had a very brief chat yesterday, wasn't it, while you were in the finals for the Blood Bowl tournament you were attending. And Liam has joined us as well, so hey Liam, how you doing? All Thank Hobbies is saying hello to everyone. Coleman is in. Palace01 is in. All right, Phil. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you and to everybody in the chat. Coyote is in. Oh my goodness, the chat just went crazy there. So Coyote is in saying everything looks fine. Well, thank you for letting me know. That's a terrible amount of time it took for me to actually get to the point where. Can you imagine if it said none of us can hear you? That would have been terrible. Eric Brown is recovering from flu and was sick for New Year's, over New Year's. So I do apologise to. Wazadi says evening all. Frost and Fist is in there as well. Welcome, Phil says Frost and Fist. Welcome back. Thank you very much, Frost and Fist. Scott Beale, at Warhammer Online. I think resolutions are a bit rubbish. You don't stick to it, and if you need to make one, then you will fail at it and feel bad. Well, that's an interesting point, isn't it? I think there's some truth in that. I think it's a question of how much pressure you apply on yourself. And also, I think you have to be cautious of being overly optimistic, maybe. Shall we talk about that? Red Cuffs is reporting in. Acharya is joining us, and welcoming me back as well. Fel Hate is in. Fel Hate, it's good to see you again. Fantastic. Who else have we got? Red Cuffs, Hypernerdia is what he meant to say. Lots of people saying hello to each other, which is wonderful. Elster Nation is in. Elster Nation, we need to catch up, sir. So it's good to see you. And I've been watching some of your output leading up to Christmas as well on your channel. Keep it up, mate. Keep it up, because it's good stuff. You've made me chuckle through those dark winter months. Paolo's 01 is putting together an Orc War Chanter, and it's proper doing my head in. Awful model to build. I'd have to ask Sam on that one. But yes, some of them certainly can. Even the new ones can. And Ice Wolf Inc. Hello all. Just turning on the channel. Hello, Ice Wolf Inc. Welcome to us. Welcome to join. Thanks for joining us as well. Along with Wolfgar, who's saying hello, as Sean Baker is saying hello. And Wifeall Inc. is already streaming up the place. Lol. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Ice Wolf Inc. and Sean Blake for joining us as well, which is brilliant. And Wolfgar, sorry. And they're three names that actually, at least with Wolfgar and Ice Wolf Inc. That's the first time I think I've seen your name. So thank you for joining us, and I look forward to your comments. So we are 12 minutes into the show. I think I'm going to stick with an hour, although I don't have the issues that I've had with my back leading up to Christmas. As I've said, the neurosurgeon has worked a miracle on me. I should say things aren't over with my back. What they did to me was essentially stop the nerves from sending pain signals. So my back isn't fixed. It's just I have no idea it's in a mess, which is a wonderful position to be in, at least. But what it does mean is they know now where the problem is, because they blocked 6 different areas of my spine, and it's one of those 6. So it's a process of narrowing it down. And I'm back at the end of the month, and hopefully at some point the neurosurgeon is going to say we've got a permanent fix. So we'll see. Let's hope so. We're certainly in a better position than I was prior to Christmas. But that's the end. That's the end of back updates. Surreal has just said, say hi to my friend Scott. Hey Scott, how are you doing? Scott, have I missed you on the chat? In which case I can only apologize, Scott, unless you're talking about Scott Bile, who says resolutions are a bit rubbish. You can't be talking about Scott. Maybe you are. I don't know. Either way, hey Scott, friend of Surreal, thanks for joining me. I saw things says, yeah, pretty new to live, seen lots of excellent bat reps here for your channel. Well, thank you very much. You will see more bat reps for the new year. That has to be one of my resolutions, surely. But we'll talk about that as well. So thank you for joining us live. These shows are only as good, I think, as the live chat we get. So I really do appreciate people joining me. And Surreal says Scott is just simply somebody who's hanging around with Surreal, so not online, and I didn't miss a chat. But Scott, hey, welcome, and I hope to see you again as well on the chat. Okay, right. Sam's poor orcs got their little green butts handed to them. Patrick is a very capable opponent. He's brilliant. I had a great time when he was over visiting. He stayed at my home. All of my family got on with him. I say all of my family. That's my wife, my son, and more importantly as well than anything, Lola the German Shepherd, who thought Patrick was amazing. So and has now been added to her official list of visitors. So I think he could probably come through the door without being attacked. So that was good news. It was all good news. But yes, he's a very capable opponent, and like I say, I've learned a lot from that visit. So more to come on that. Right, let's talk about the main subject. So I had, for the first time ever, I have firmly been in previous years on the camp of not having New Year's resolutions. I'm a big fan of living life from day to day, or at the very least week to week. And what I mean by that is kind of, I think if you get to the end of a year and decide you need to change the direction of your life, it's probably the wrong thing to do. You need to be thinking about that constantly, what you're doing with your life. So in the past, I've not really thought much about New Year's resolutions until, strangely enough, last year, where we were setting Wargamer Online was being set up. The website was up and running by now, but not available to the public. And I know that because I've had to do some license renewals this week. We were populating content. Sam had been working hard for several months on getting some of the pre-population of the premium content done. And I got to the end of the year, and I gave myself a catchphrase, which inadvertently turned into a New Year's resolution, which was to create more and consume less. I'm a big fan of movies, and I'm a big fan of music and all the rest, and I'm a big fan of all sorts of things, really. And I decided that actually, rather than consume entertainment, shall I say, I was wanting to create my own entertainment more. So it was getting back to the grassroots of gaming and painting and modelling and those kind of things, but also creating content for the channel, connecting with a community, creating a community. So this word create was really, really important to me. And I think throughout the year, I've reminded myself that's what I'm trying to do. If I found myself too long away from a desk, and too long away from painting, or too long away from modeling, or too long away from gaming, then I've reminded myself, create more, consume less. It's been a nice little strapline to get me through 2017. So it's I'm just reading. I was a bit worried from Icewolf. Thinks says the chat on screen gets out of focus sometimes. I think that might be my streaming or your internet access. Most likely my streaming, as I've mentioned. I've tried to get it better. Oh wait, right, okay then. So thank you. Yes, that's what it's saying. The chat on screen does go out of focus. It could be streaming. I am working on a 4G connection rather than a broadband, so hopefully those issues will resolve themselves. But back to what I was saying with the New Year's resolution, because I've actually lived by one for a whole year and I have kept to it. It was a mantra rather than a resolution. So what Scott says, you always tend to mess up and not fulfill those things. I think because mine was a bit more of a mantra and a bit broader, create more, consume less, it was a great reminder throughout the year to try and do things a little bit differently this year, rather than I am going to get X done and I am going to get Y done. And that's what prompted me to this chat, really, because as I went through the year, I thought, actually, you know what, that New Year's resolution back in beginning of 2017 was actually a really useful thing for me, and remained at the forefront of my mind throughout the year. So maybe I should think of something new for 2018. And this is where the problem started, because as soon as I started to think of things, I started to think of objectives and goals rather than mantras. I started to think, I definitely need to get 2 Age of Sigmar armies painted. I definitely need to get my Harlequins painted that I've had in their boxes unopened since the actual stuff came out. And as soon as I started listing those kind of things, then I realized that the trodden path could be quite dangerous, because what happens if I don't get them done, and then I'll feel disheartened and those kind of things. So I'd like to know from people in the chat, what do they think? Have they set themselves a New Year's hobby resolution? Have you set yourself an objective or a mantra that you want to try and fulfill in 2018? And I'm hoping that somewhere out there, as we have a chat through all of this, we'll find our way together into sorting this out. I can tell you the kind of things I definitely want to do. I definitely want to game more. I think, this year than last year. I spent a lot of the early part of the year painting, building, terrain, scenery, boards, and those kind of things. And it's lovely to see people discover the channel and say that battlefield is amazing and those kind of things, because that stuff I built. When you actually go back to the videos, I built that in the sort of first quarter, second quarter of the year. The desert board, the Zone Mortalis, the Mine Mortalis board that was built, which I think you're going to see a bit more of now Necromunda is released, so you'll see more of those. So it's nice to get that feedback, and you know, so that's been nice to look back on. But this year, I think when I look at last year, I don't think I did that many games. Part of that was about the pressure to film every game you do, which means the setup is longer and the time it takes is longer. Part of it was because during the initial success of Wargamer Online, we launched a separate studio, and a lot of my gaming gear went to that studio. The gaming table went to it, the boards went to it, the scenery went to it. So I didn't have the facility at home, which meant if I wanted to do a game, if I'd go to the studio, if I was going to the studio, you felt obliged to film the game. So that created kind of almost like a barrier to gaming. So I definitely want to game more this year. But while we talk about some other things, where we'll get into it, well, Steve, have you just Steve Forrest, who I was just about to say, has just said has just popped into the chat, has just donated £40. So thank you, Steve. That's very generous of you, sir. Thank you very much. And we should catch up in the new year. I've been out of it for a bit, as I was explaining at the start, and you've just said, what have you missed? Well, I've been out of it for a bit. I've been out of it for a couple of weeks. I've had some family time, I've had some holiday time, but I'm back now and I'm feeling energized and in far less pain than I've been in 2017. So that's great news, and thank you very much for that donation. That's gonna, we're going to make good use of that in the new year, so thank you. Right, okay then. Where are we at with the chat? So Ice Wolf Inc. I really like the layout. I like to see some, it's nice to see some video editing. Makes YouTube so much nicer. Well, thank you very much. We do have to put a lot of effort into our editing. Sam more so, because Sam tends to do the big studio battle reports, and he puts a huge amount of work into that. So when you do get nice comments like that, it does make it feel like it's worthwhile. So that's good stuff. Sean Blake says, love is army. I'm assuming you're talking about Patrick's. Well, yes, what's not to love? It's one of the most beautiful armies I've seen in a long time. And it was a real pleasure to play against. Hopefully my battle report will be finished editing within the next 48 hours or so, but I'll have a chat with Sam about where we're going to put that, and then we've got 2 more battle reports I think to edit with Patrick as well. So, but I'm going to get the one with me done first, because I think you can see Patrick versus Sam and Patrick versus me. Let's get those up, and then both Liam and the wonderful Steve both gave him a game as well, and they were both incredibly intense games, so they were good fun. Okay. Steve Forrest says, and I'm back. So that's thank you. And thank you very much for your donation. Jim Wilson says, loving the statement, create more, consume. I just lost that as soon as I scrolled. That's so annoying. Create more, consume less. This is coming from a Gene Stealer player whose goal is to consume everything. Lol. Yes, well, that is a point. Derpimus Maximus, if he creates more Gene Stealers, then there will be less stuff to consume. Jim Wilson, I think I've covered Steve's comments over. Hey Steve, welcome back, and you haven't missed a lot. We were just chatting through general stuff. At Dipimus Maximus, I see your logic now. I'm not quite sure. Oh yeah, go for it then. Elster Nation has got 4 armies painted this year is my goal. Well, there you go. The thing is, Elster Nation, that'll probably keep you busy till about the end of January. So you probably need to up that number to put a 0 at the end, Elster Nation, and then I'd feel like, yeah. Although you're probably talking about 4 armies for yourself, aren't you? Because you do a hell of a lot of work for other people as well. So that's probably a challenge then. So good on you. Horny Morning says, my New Year's resolution is to build my 2,000 point Iron Jaw list and to visit tournaments. Ah, good one. Tournament. Let's talk about tournaments for a little bit before we push on with the thing. That was my second one. More games. Definitely need to enter tournaments this year. I think I enjoy. This is dangerous territory for me to admit that there's the potential for me to enjoy tournaments. I've not done any tournaments for a long time. Partly because I'm not a big fan of power players, if you like, these horrible lists of, and I'm just going back to some of the previous editions, Tyrannid lists with 7 Hive Tyrants in and those kind of things, I'm a big fan of the fluff, and I'm a big believer of the universe, and it's the universe that helps me paint and create my armies. So when I'm painting them and when I'm building my armies, I'm thinking all the time about the universe that they're in, and I'm applying rationale to why they look that way. So when my Gene Stealers work on a mine on a desert planet, then I'm thinking all the time about, well, how would that impact them? What colours would they wear? What would they look like? What kind of weathering would affect them? And all those kind of things. And because I try to kind of think about that realism rationale, shall we say, to help me paint the models, I then get frustrated if I don't apply the same realism rationale to the actual fielded force, if you like. So, a Gene Stealer cult showing up with pretty much nothing else but Gene Stealers, for instance. I know they're uber powerful. I know it's incredibly tempting. But the whole point is about the Gene Stealer cult is they're meant to be able to infiltrate the society around them. So some of them at least need to look more human. So that's the kind of thing that goes off in my head. And then I have to say, the game against Patrick was a turning point, really, because I actually realised it doesn't really matter. The tournament is fun. It makes you think differently about your army, and it doesn't matter if I don't win the tournament. That was the important point. And I'm not saying I did or didn't win against Patrick. You'll have to find out when we do the battle report. I was actually quite pleased with the battle against Patrick, and I think I did myself a good showing, shall we say. So we'll see, and I'm not going to give it away because you won't know until, I think, pretty much the very last turn. Yeah, you definitely won't know until the last turn, and in fact the last player's turn you won't know who won until the end of that last player's turn. So it's safe to say it was a close match. But all of that said, I realised that I had a lot of fun just in playing different players with different armies, with different ideas. So more tournaments for me this year. And I think Patrick's been an angel and already signed me up to the first one. So he's coming back over in March, I believe. Check out the Wargamer Online Facebook. We're also going to put the stuff on the Wargamer Online forum as well. So check that out. We'll be keeping people posted. I want to do at least 2 tournaments. So I want to do an Age of Sigmar and a 40k tournament, and if I get it right, I'm going to do 2 of each, I think. So I'd like to do 4 tournaments this year. That might be if I can find a skirmish event or something like that, then that's cool. But anyway, needless to say, I definitely want to do tournaments. Daryl says, my goal is to complete at least a model or a mini once a week. The WGO forum has almost single-handedly kept my hobby momentum going recently, so more of the same for me. Well, that's excellent news, Daryl. And again, this is the thing, maybe I shouldn't be so afraid to set myself a target like that. And I have to say, it did occur to me. I was thinking character model, troop unit, or vehicle a week. And I'd gone into that specific, so that was one of mine. And then I decided that for me is probably too ambitious, I think. So I'm going to maybe come back to that broader sort of Elstonation approach to armies at least. Paolo says, done at last. War Chanter and 10 Our Boys built and base to go with the 5 brutes I finished earlier. Time to relax. Well, that's great news. That's great news. Ralph says, here is mine. At least 10 minutes hobby time every day. Oh, excuse me. That's it. 10 minutes hobby time. What can you do in 10 minutes? You have to. I like it though. I like the idea of making sure that you return to the desk. That's the thing. And you said at least 10 minutes, so that could be just cutting a few things off a sprue, couldn't it? I like that one. It's good. Coleman says, definitely catch up on the painting. It's not a New Year's resolution as such. I've been doing it since September. Play more, definitely. Good news. Yeah, clear the paint backlog. That was one of mine as well. Definitely. The desire to clear the painting backlog. I'll come. Yeah, well, how much chat have we got in there at the moment? It's okay. We're not doing too bad. There's not. I'm not a million miles behind on the chat. I think I probably want to do a subdivision of the painting side. It's a long time since I've painted to what I would consider beyond tabletop standard. In fact, I think it's safe to say all of my stuff this year was tabletop standard. I haven't done anything that I'd consider above tabletop standard. So everything is being driven by, the deadline to get it ready for the channel or something like that. I definitely want to take the time this year to do one army, one faction, even if it's a small force, where I do tabletop plus, I do a little bit more effort on the painting and focus a little bit more on the characters and those kind of things. But I don't think that's going to be the Caradron Overlords. I might spend some time on some of the characters. I might have fun with some of the vehicles, but I don't think I'll be going all out on the units. If it's anything, I'm half tempted to do it with Harlequins. I'm half tempted to do the Harlequin force and go crazy, but we'll see. We'll see. Because there's so much cool stuff going off in the hobby, that's the problem. Okay, so what else have we got? Well, I thought I was up to speed, and then of course a bunch of chatters just shot in at their things. So Retep 1001 says, my resolution for 2018 is getting 30 Dark Reapers painted. That's horrific. It's amazing, but also horrific. Dark Reapers are so cool in this edition. So yeah, have a lot of fun with those. I did the Dark Reaper Wraith Lord, and it was a great model, and I had a lot of fun with that. So if you haven't seen that, check out the Eldar showcase I did. It's one of the early ones, so I apologize for the flashing strobe lights and stuff. The video editing, I got a bit carried away in it, but anyway, check out the Dark Reaper Wraith Lord I did. But of course, recently as well, I did the Dark Reaper Wraith Guard, the ones with the scythes, the D scythes. So I really enjoyed that, and I do indeed have. I don't have 30 of them. I have 10 Dark Reapers, which is definitely one of the units I want to get finished if I'm going to do anything near clearing my paint backlog. Okay. Daryl says, out Ralph on me. Weirdly enough, that's what I've been doing since August. 30 minutes a night. I think I've painted more than I would in an old 8-hour session day. Well, there you go. Maybe it's just about regularly coming back to the desk and getting on with some hobby. Icewolf Inc. says, started last year with 40k, playing fantasy for 20 years, already collected a lot of nice models. This year I need to paint more and have at least a nice army before I buy any more. That has to be probably the most failed objective of any hobbyist, I think. But go for it, sir. Go for it. And what I mean by that is the amount of times I've told myself I'm not buying anything new until I've built and painted everything I've got. But and then something amazing and new comes out, and off you go. Believe it or not, thanks to Patrick's generosity, now I have every super heavy Forge World Eldar model. They weren't all provided by Patrick. Patrick very generously filled the gap on my collection. So yeah, get the Eldar super heavies done. So that's the Cobra, the Scorpion. I have a couple of Lynxes for a Revenant Titan, and yes, I have a Phantom Titan sat in a drawer that needs painting. So maybe I should get that Phantom Titan painted. Okay, but good on you, Icewolfing, for putting it out there and saying you're going to go for it. I'm proud of you. Do it, and I hope you get it. I hope you get your backlog painted. Steve Forrest says, so that's first round sorted at Bugman's for AOS doubles at Warhammer Online. So thank you very much, Steve. I'll make sure I bear that in mind. Steve, are you actually going to the doubles? If you are, do you have a gaming partner? Because Jack is considering, he's got his death, of course, in the format of oh, help me out, whatever those flesh eater courts, flesh eater courts, And he's also now trying to get Beastclaw Raiders done in time for that as well, which would be destruction, of course. But let me know if you are intending on going to it, and if you have a partner, because I need to sort tickets out for Jack if that's the case. Okay, Paula says that film was mine is to start and finish an Iron Jaws army, finish my Grey Knights, and do the Hermann Goering division of Flames of War. Then maybe a Death Army. Looking forward to the new battle tome. That's cool. Do it. Do it. How many armies is that? So start and finish. That's 1 plus Grey Knights and the Hermann Goering division, and then the Death Army. So 4. So yes, 4 is 4. Seems a reasonable number. That's once a quarter, isn't it? Just getting an army done a quarter. We'll see. Ralph Hummel says, maybe. My trouble is that I don't have fixed hours as a freelancer, so I tend to work much and not play enough. That's fair enough. That's fair enough, Ralph. And I do know your routine. Steve Forrest says, my New Year's resolution is to finish my Death Horde. Then they will bring out a new battle tome, so it might be a while. Well, there you go. Scott says, that Warhammer my wife. Scott Bale says, my wife says hello to Mr. Phil. Well, hello, Scott's wife. Thank you for saying hello. Happy New Year to you. Elster Nation, yeah, 4 of my own. But this has started off with a commission for Asylum Wargaming, which, by the way, you posted that stuff on the Wargamer Online forum. No, you didn't. It was on the community page. Stunning work. Stunning work. And I think, if is it some new model company coming out for 2018? Ooh, that's interesting. The Asylum Wargaming. So let me know what those models were for, because they were beautiful. Daryl says he's getting excited too, painting my new Graveguard and getting ready for 1000k tourney, and I've been thinking about what you've told me on the Facebook group and made some right filth. Well, that's lovely. Do listen to Steve if you want to build yourself a horrible list. He knows his stuff when it comes to death. Icewolf Inc. says, next to painting, 3D printing a scenery for a 40k table. Well, that's a brilliant idea. I myself am doing one of my hobby objectives is to build a Zone Mortalis board based on the new terrain that GW have released. Oh, the new 40k terrain, which I've forgotten the name of now, but the riser pattern terrain. I want to do a Zone Mortalis board in the style of riser pattern, which I will 3D print and design, I think. But again, whether I'll ever get around to that, it's definitely a project that sits there. Right, okay then, what have we got? Retake 1001 says, sounds awesome, I'll check it out for sure. That's cool. I think you were talking about what I was pointing to you earlier. Derpimus Maximus says, so posted a thing on the forum I found today, so I should probably resolve to stop living in the past. Okay, I will have to check out what you posted on the forum about living in the past. So, I'll have a look at that. Elster Nation, they were for Gangs of Rome from Footshaw Miniatures. Gangs of Rome, of course, that's it. Which has some beautiful... I've seen some early release stuff of that, doesn't it? And it looks absolutely stunning, that game. So do check out Gangs of Rome. If there's any... I think it's a Kickstarter. Could be. Help me out, Elster Nation. I half want to check out what Derpimus Maximus has been posting on the forum. But I'll check it later. Because I can see we've got Nip and Painter, we've got Martin Dix, we've got Patrick has posted, Coleman's posted. They were recent topics, so I'll have to go back. Like I say, I've only just returned from my holiday, so I'm a little bit out of sorts. And I've got a lot to catch up on. There's a hell of a lot of website administration to do. Huge amount to do in the back end, and it goes to show you just go on holiday for 2 weeks. And the amount of work that needs doing in the back end of the website is monumental, so I need to get onto that. I have exported the list for the prize draw for the December prize draw, so look out for that this week. I'll be doing a live prize draw. I'm not sure when, not sure whether it's going to be Wednesday or Friday, but it will definitely be one of those days. So look out for that as well. Derpimus Maximus. It's a set of first edition Warhammer Fantasy rules I got out of Oxford. You know what? I've got those first edition rules as well. Maybe we should have a game. Okay, Elsa Nation says did a Kickstarter. Unfortunately, it was just sent stuff last minute to paint. Well, there you go, there you go. But check it out anyway. They look really nice. Those Gangs of Rome stuff. Right, what else am I talking about then? Well, it's 22, and I've caught up on the chat. Some New Year's resolutions then. Well, okay, maybe. I don't think being as specific as a model a week would be good for me, because I don't think that's possible. My weeks are too hectic and we spend a lot of time sorting out videos and stuff. I'm going to go with some generic themes then. I definitely want to get my Gene Stealer cult finished by, and I'm going to set myself a target here, has to be finished by the end of January. I want to get my Caradron Overlords, I think, finished by, I'm going to be careful here. Originally, I was thinking about Caradron Overlords for the tournament in March. It's not going to happen. One, I don't know the army that well. I won't have got many games in, and I do want to make a decent show of myself. So, on that basis, I'm going to be using Sylvaneth in the tournament, and I'm going to be, I believe, I'm going to be gaming with Rachel and her Seraphon. So Seraphon and Sylvaneth should be fun together, I think. So that's good, because that gives me a bit more time on the Caradron Overlords. Saying that, I do want to get them done forthwith. There's a bunch of scenery I want to get done by the end of this month. So that's two things. I've got the Gene Stealer cult and the scenery I was working on, which I'm just going to reach back here and pull it forward. So this was an example of the scenery that I was working on, and I can't get any in front of it. So this was some super fast scenery, terrain ideas that I was working on when Patrick was here, actually, and he was helping out. And I've got all sorts of crazy blobs and giant pieces of scenery made and all the rest. So I'll be working on that. Jet Set Jimbo says, is it me or is the lip sync off? Definitely looks off, doesn't it? And yet I have no idea why. Let me see if there's something I don't know. Yes, this is probably a bad idea to mess with the stream while it's in the middle of going live, isn't it? Do you think this is going to work? That's very, very scary. I don't think I should touch any of that while I'm streaming. No, you know what? I'm just going to leave it alone. It does look a bit off, I have to agree. Same for me, says Double X. But Redcuff says it's you. So there you go. So some people are stuck and some people aren't. Never mind. Okay, well, I hope that it's not too bad. I've just had a quick look at it, and I can't see any reason why the lip sync would be. Nope, definitely no messing around there. So, Phil, stop messing around. Hold on a second. Oh, no, there's nothing in here. So if there's a synchronization issue, it's probably nothing more than my terrible 70s Kung Fu movie vibe audio offset that's created by my terrible internet connection. As I mentioned, I had 3 power cuts tonight, so I've not had a chance to double check everything, because every time I got it set up, I had a new power cut. I'm kind of holding myself lucky that I'm still here at the moment. Right, okay, so Fuzzy Wuzzy 1203 says, I'm feeling pretty smug about my Contemptor Achilles I got last week. Looking forward to the new codex. Oof. Yes, I think so is Sam. Scott Bale says, Warhammer Online, any thoughts on where you get a Sentinel canopy? Need one to finish a project. Not big on getting the whole thing when I just need a piece. I'll have a look through my spares box. I had a couple of Sentinels that I built. Oh, I've got a horrible feeling I used the roof, though, actually, as part of my conversion. I'll have a look through my spares box. I might have one for you, Scott. Okay, then. So, syncs up and down. Double X is saying same now fixed. So, it probably is just my data connection now. So, sorry about that. Hopefully, when BT finally get my broadband in, that has to be one of my New Year's resolutions, is to get better broadband, surely. Jet Set Jimbo says, glad to have you back, Phil. Well, thank you very much. And XX says, It's been a year. I'm going with XX rather than XX. Let's go with XX. It's been a year since I started 40k and been painting Space Wolves all year. Time for a change. I'm thinking orcs. Oh, yes. If you're going to do orcs, definitely buy some orcs as well to form part of your bits box. I think orcs should never this is a bold statement. Orcs should never be built out the box. You should just simply buy a random collection of sets and then make your models to suit those units as best as possible, because they're the army that is just glue everything on top of everything. So go for it though, and keep us informed. Redcuff says, my granddad was in the Hermann Goring division, commanded a platoon of FIAK 38s. I don't know what an FIAK 38 is, so apologies for my lack of military background knowledge, but that's a cool bit of information. Coleman says, just seen your update on the forum, they are so cool. Yes, they are, aren't they? And Neil Malden says, so who's excited for the new army? Question mark, question mark. Then there's a sad face there. So are you saying that the new army wasn't new enough for you? It did feel like they made more of a deal about that than they should have done. And I think they said, we've been in the dark, we've been watching, we're waiting, and everybody's thinking, is this about the Watchers in the Dark? And is this about Lionel Johnson coming back? And of course, that's what everyone was hoping for. And then it was a bunch of characters for custodians and the flying vehicles. You know what? They're beautiful. I really like them. And I think, Sam's going to do an amazing force to go alongside the rest of his custodians. So it's going to be kind of cool to see them. I think the jet bikes are beautiful. So, but yeah, I did feel cheated a little bit cheated. But there you go. You have to be careful, don't you, on building expectation up almost too much. But there you go, because people can come away with a little bit disappointed when it's finally released. Jet Set Jimbo says, finally finished my Iron Jaws Warband, now moving on to Gates of Antara's Start. So that is a cool set. That is a very cool set. We do need to have a look at that at some point, but wow. Well, that's the question, isn't it? I think I need to focus a little bit more this year. And I think that focus is going to predominantly be around Necromunda. 40k, Age of Sigmar, and Age of Sigmar Skirmish. I think that's where I'm going to focus my efforts. If I get chance in the second half of the year, I would like to do join Sam and the gang on some of the World War II stuff. So possibly that's maybe where I'd want to go. Maybe. Don't know. Not quite sure yet. Okay, a Flak, 38 is a famous 80mm anti-aircraft gun. Well, I at least knew what AA stood for, so I didn't do too bad, did I, Neil? There you go. Fuzzy Wuzzy says, I'm excited for just the amazing pieces that are coming out of GW. I do feel like they were a little bit overhyped, though. I agree with you, Fuzzy Wuzzy. Scott says, thought the new force was going to be sisters. How could they do that to you? Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I'm starting to doubt that Sisters of Battle are ever going to come out in plastic. And I think that hint when they went, oh, look, it's Plastic Sisters. I actually think they were talking about the Sisters of Silence. And therefore those models are already out. But you never know. You never know. They might come. They'd certainly sell, wouldn't they? I think. Orc Boy says they're the Emperor's bodyguards, so should have stayed with them. Yes, again, as I mentioned, I'm a bit fluff driven by my armies, so for me, I'm a little bit confounded by the fact that the Emperor's own bodyguards have decided to venture out. And I think it kind of goes a little bit against the fluff, doesn't it? Because they're meant to be so loyal to his protection that I can't really see why tramping off around the universe a million miles away from the Emperor. Or a billion miles away from the Emperor is really going to serve to protect him. But they're cool models, aren't they? So what can you do? What can you do? Coyote says, when GW announced the Custodians were the new army for 40k, my first thought was, does GW have excess Retributor armor rattle cans lying around? That is a great paint, by the way. I bought one can of that. I used it once. I loaned it to someone, and whoever it is I loaned that can of paint to, I've never got it back. And everybody says it was somebody else. There you go. So I don't know who's at it. Sam says he gave it to Pink. I think Pink says he never had it. Oh, honestly. So I've got a missing kind of Retributor armor out there, which I really loved. I used it on one model, thought it was amazing. Okay, Elster Nation, if you need at any point, your friendly neighborhood Elster Nation is here to help. Oh, bless you, Elster Nation. You are the best. Plastic Sisters of Battle are probably going to appear just before 11th edition. Ow! But don't you see, if Custodes comes out, so does the Emperor? Well, that's the question, isn't it? We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Something's got to happen. I think it's going to be the year of the Primarchs. We'll see. You know, and I think that's a long discussion for 40k fans, is do we want Primarchs in the 40k universe? It's too late now, isn't it? You know, the cat's out of the bag, as they say, but we'll see. So, New Year's resolutions. I've got 10 minutes. Let's start rounding up with my thoughts on something as punchy as create more and consume less. I think I want to game more, definitely. I think that's a good one to have, to remind myself to actually play the game. I've had some games recently that I've really enjoyed. I've even done a couple of test games where we were using paper cutouts for scenery, and Jack was using some grey plastic miniatures that he just quickly assembled. And we were doing test games and treated them as such, and it was quite refreshing actually not to do. And I've not been a fan of that in the past, but it was refreshing to actually play a game on the basis that we were both there to learn. We weren't there to win. So you were kind of playing the rule, and if dice went wrong, we'd kind of say, well, no, let's roll that again, because what would happen if you got those many more wounds? What impact is that going to have on me? What is it going to have on you? Would it tip the game? You know, so if we saw a bad dice roll, we were re-rolling them and things like that. And it was good to do that. It was good to do that because I think that will help us for the battle reports. I think that will help us, again, for tournaments to know our armies better. Ooh, there's a resolution for you, is to know my armies better. Believe it or not, while I was off over Christmas, I discovered a Silver Neferal. After playing Silver Neferal for however long now, I discovered a rule that I just glazed over it. Just it completely. I'd read it. I remember reading it. I remember it being relevant to the armies I've been playing, and then it's just disappeared. And that was where you actually, when you do use the forest to transport from one end of the table to the next, you're meant to roll a dice. And the dice tells you whether you successfully do it. It tells you whether you do it really well, in which case you get to run and to move and charge at the end of going through the woods as well, which will be incredible to get that extra move. So I've been missing that in every single Sylvaneth game, and what's interesting is nobody's pointed that out on the battle reports either. So I think it's just one of those rules that gets forgotten. Interestingly enough, with someone like the Spirit of Durfu, I think you can actually choose to downgrade your result. No, you can choose to always change your result to I'm okay, basically, is what you can do. So that was quite interesting anyway. So I'll definitely be playing that role more. And that prompted me to go, what else don't I know about this army that I think I know everything about? So I went back through it all and spent some time really getting to know my armies more. So there's one. Game more, understand my armies more. Absolutely, I think. It's not as punchy as it is create more, consume less. I still think I'm going to keep that one for this year. I've just got a few sub-resolutions to do. Okay, so what's going off in the chat? Can't wait to see the bat rep with me and Patrick go live. I got to use Nagash. Yes, you did indeed, didn't you? Patrick did a great deal of research on Nagash before that game took place as well. So he really does sort of brush up on the opponents he's up against. Oh, excuse me. Ooh. Sorry about this. Depimus Maximus says, I bet Rowboat just jammed a large print edition of the Codex Astartes in it. I'm not quite sure what you two are talking about. Oh, it was Acharia saying if Custodians are coming out, does that mean the warp breach, webbay breach in the vault has been sealed? Well, yeah, good question. Yeah, who knows? This is the confusing thing, but Should we really complain when we're getting new models? I don't know. Yes. No. You decide. I don't understand why they want to bring new codexes out instead of releasing the missing ones. Well, that is frustrating for everyone, for anyone with an army out there. I agree with you, Retep, as well. That's a good point. Let's see some of this stuff. It's not like Imperium Chaos was sort of buffs are released last year. Agreed. It's nice to see armies completed, though. I have to say, I think, you know, if you've got a Custodes force, it was frustrating not to have the options you needed to make them stand alone. So it's nice that they can be a standalone army now. But you know, it makes you wonder whether they're going to follow that through with rounding off Primaris a bit more as well. Because I do think Primaris only lists do struggle unless they've got Rowboat with them. Rabute. Allboy says Nurgle Gatry now, which allows you to deep strike Morty up the field. Bet that gets FAQ. Well, we'll see. Oh dear me. Scott Beale says, Bile says, no one forgot. It's just no one plays them. Hey, come off it. Everybody loves Sylvaneth. I wish large print codexes would have thing because I need them, says Johnny Rockstar. Well, that's one thing I do actually enjoy about the digital codexes, and this is why I don't buy the enhanced ones, because the normal digital codexes you can actually zoom in on the page, which is really useful for me. Particularly if I haven't got my glasses on me, I can bring my iPad up and zoom in on the text, and it makes it much easier to read when my eyes are tired at night. Daryl says, just about knocked my teeth out, got a bit vigorous with my shaking of the paint pots. Oof, oh dear me, I hope that's not a glass bottle. Fozzie Wozzie said, I had a game against Sisters of Battle last week. So cool, just need more stuff in units that aren't £60 plus. I agree. Jack collected a Sisters of Battle army for a time, and then, you know, I think struggled to paint the metal basically. Coleman says, I play against Sylvaneth pretty much every time I play. Well, there you go. Do people play that rule when they do the teleport, that they roll the dice to see what happens? Because there you go, they should. I don't think, if I remember rightly, I think they should. I don't think there's any units that don't get out of it. I like Big Bobby G as the nickname for Rabute Gilliman. There you go. Right, okay, let's get back to 2018. If anybody's got any more resolutions for me that they want to go public with, now's your time. For me, get my Gene Stealer cult finished. Definitely. Get my Caradron Overlords finished. Built, finished, painted, done, started would be a good one. I've got terrain to finish here. I think my 40k city board needs to be done this year. So there is a list of projects that I want to get done, definitely. But I think there's a principle is I want to gain more. I definitely want to try and produce more battle reports. We're going to be trying a few, or at least I'm going to be trying a few different formats out to get more battle reports released, but still maintain a decent degree of editorial standard, shall we say. So we still want to get that right. And I think that's for me is quite important. It's something we started all along right from the beginning. But I do know that editing the studio battle reports for me is quite a big task. But I know that Sam has been working on ways to improve the speed of that, so we need to catch up in the new year, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So more battles, more bat reports, definitely do some tournaments. So for me, this has to be the year of the gaming. I think I've built some beautiful armies. I've got loads of models that have never been seen on the channel. I do need to finish my Gene Stealer cult off, but there's a load of models just even in my Elder collection. And they've never been seen on the channel. You know what I want to do as well? At least one epic game to get some of the big Forge World models out, and to do that should be fun as well. So not epic as in, sorry, the epic scale, but I mean, what did it used to be called? Armageddon. So to get back to that thing as well. And I think finally as well, I want to play more skirmish. I think it's a wonderful mechanism for learning your force, because you have so many games. And although each model is a unit in its own right, it's quite conceivable within an average game of skirmish. You can have a lot of units represented just by the one model within, which I think really gives you experience of the unit. And then that scales up to knowledge inside Age of Sigmar as well. So definitely want to do a little bit more of that. Okay, Neil says, I just want to get more games in and finish a World War II project I started last year. Well, there you go. Let's do that. I think overall, I think people are at least, whether the idea of a New Year resolution is a good, whether you want to term it like that, I think we're all setting ourselves targets to get done this year, things that we want to get achieved this year. And I don't think there's anything wrong at the turn of a year to set yourself some objectives and stuff you want to choose. The question is how can we help support each other in the community? So maybe that's a good place that the forum can come into play. I'm certainly going to start to post more in the forum this year. I'm going to be keeping project logs because I think that's a good thing for me to do. I think it keeps me motivated. I once renovated a sailing boat, and I kept a blog, a WordPress blog. And originally the reason I did it is my father-in-law lived 100 miles away from where I live, and he was big into sailing, and it was a way of me sharing with him the progress, because he was housebound, he was disabled, so he couldn't get out, and that blog became a really important thing for me to help track progress. So I think doing a little bit like that, using the Wargamer Online forum and to create project logs for me. So don't expect to see some activity from me inside the forum where I create each one of as a project log, and it might be just setting it up with a couple of photos to start with, but it's certainly what I'm going to be doing. Okay, Decimus Maximus says, oh, sorry, Coyote says, lol, that works for me too. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to with, the notorious Big Bobby G. Well, there you go. Charia says, Apocalypse Game, thank you very much. Decimus is saying, I need to finish stuff I started, way too much half-finished stuff around here. I have created, while I've been away, I have created my unfinished log as a checklist, and I am going to enjoy ticking those things off. Maybe that's one for the forum as well. You should start a pledge-based thread with a time limit to get something finished. That's not a bad idea. The whole get it painted idea is probably not a bad idea and something that we could help drive content with, but also get people in the community joining in on that. In the past, we did the Sigmar challenge, the Sigmar showdown. Maybe we should do the more kind of like once a month and get it done, where everyone commits at the start of the month what they're going to get done that month, and then they can maybe earn rewards of some description. I'm not even quite sure what. Maybe it's even just a show and tell at the end of the month where we go through everybody who finished. Okay, so Surreal says it's my biggest painting block, all the little stuff I have to do to finish models. Yep, we know that one. It's always the detail. It's 90% of the models is painted in 10% of the time, and it's that last 10% that takes 90% of the effort. Coyote says he's going to start a project log on the WDO forums later tonight, after some primer drives. Well, that's awesome. Hamish has just joined us, saying hi. Hey, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I literally am about to call it a night now, but thank you very much for joining us. Right. Okay, then. So there you go. I want to game more. I want to do tournaments this year, and I've got some armies to finish, and I'm going to try and be, I think, a little bit more focused this year on a project by project basis, using project logs within the Wargamer Online forum. That's definitely something I'm going to do. So the remainder of the Gene Stealer Cult will be recorded inside a project log. My Caradron Overlords will have a dedicated project log. My Necromunda gangs will have a project log. And that's how I'm going to get this done. My terrain that I've been working on needs a project log, and we'll have videos to accompany it. And I think that's the thing as well, is I think as I do the project logs, you'll have an idea of some of the content that's coming along as well. But forever. It goes without saying, more gaming this year, just more gaming. Jack's been really cool. We've had a couple of games over Christmas. This is what I'm saying. I think in terms of Age of Sigmar, using the skirmish game as a way to get more familiar with your units is great. So Daryl is saying, thanks for a productive session as always. Got the verdigris done on my Graveguard and Right King during the chat. Also count me in big time on the Age of Sigmar Chronicles. Well, there you go. I think that's it. Maybe inside the forum we build the Tale of Gamers, where people can do their logs, their chronicles. So let's do it. Surreal says, I made a resolution 10 years ago never to make another resolution. It still stands. Well, that's fair enough. You don't have to use the New Year's resolution thing. Like I say, it's the first time I'd ever done one last year, which was create more and consume less. And I think it was good because it was manta driven. It made me think a little bit more when I was sometimes heading towards the TV, saying, oh, I'll just watch a bit of TV, and you actually go, no, you know what, let's go to the hobby desk and do something. Let's make something. Okay, right. Jet Set Jimbo says, off to start my, and then breaks up Beyond the Greats of Antares project log now. Excellent, thank you very much. Scott says, I have a friend that motivates himself by paying himself to paint his own minis and would only use that money for new purchases. You know what? That is a genius idea. That's a genius idea. Find those little things that will help motivate yourself. No, Derpimus. Nope, I need it for placky crack addict. There you go. Yeah, lots of people saying that's a great idea. Okay, look, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you very much for everyone who's joined me on the first Monday Muse of 2018. It's Monday Muse 22, believe it or not. So, yeah. Let's see if we can get into the 70s this year. Then I'm going to have to be pretty busy, aren't I? I'm going to have to make sure I'm here every week. But the good news is the back's feeling a lot better. I'm still sat in relative comfort. That's good news, isn't it? So I'm pretty excited. I get to see the neurosurgeon at the end of the month, and I'm hoping for more good news then. But at the very least, I've enjoyed a 2-week period with relatively minor pain, and I'm feeling buoyed up to get some hobbying done. There's the dog telling somebody off in the village. Right. Thank you very much for joining us. It's great to see old and new faces on the chat tonight. Next week's Monday Musing, I'll have a think about what it's about. But if someone wants to pop me Ask WGO through the website, if they want me to talk about stuff or want me to just muse over something, then let me know. I'm always looking for subjects. One of the things I thought about doing maybe next week and the week after was to go how to get started in Age of Sigmar and how to get started in 40k, to do 2 separate Monday musings on that, because it's a question that we see quite often. So let me know whether you think that's a good idea. For those of you who are new, don't forget, it's not just about the live shows. We have battle reports and all the rest on YouTube, but we also have our website, which is wargameronline.com. Pop along to that. There is a whole bunch of exclusive content inside Premium, which you can subscribe for just $2.99 a month, and you get to see all this additional content. There's also the Wargamer Online forum, where you can see a lot of the community posting stuff, and don't forget our Facebook page as well as our Facebook community group as well. So check all of that out. Like I say, thank you all for supporting us throughout 2017, and I'm looking forward to an exciting 2018. Good night, everyone. I will, Ralph, say hi to Sarah for you. Don't worry about that, and we will no doubt talk soon. I've got a busy couple of days at work the start of the week, definitely, but like I say, I will definitely be doing the prize draw this week. You know what? As far as YouTube and the premium membership as well, is if you want to get in on the premium end, to just I'll probably run the numbers on Wednesday again. So anybody who's live on premium with a live account by Wednesday will be entered into the draw. How about that as a little New Year's bonus? Okay, thank you very much, everyone, and we will see you again soon. Thanks for joining us all. Bye.